is you can think of these directions as starting from the point of origin, right? So this will be -1 will be a displacement to the left, this will be right, this will be down, and this will be up. So basically that is the idea you should think about, right? So the next thing we need to do is we need to have we need to loop through, and we will be storing all the rotten oranges in our DQ, and the format we will be using is the cell location and then the time, right? So so what we could do first is we are going to just do what I just said. We are going to say for I in the range, and the range is just going to be the length of the grid, right? Length of the grid. Basically, like when you're doing matrix questions, right? This is just a matrix, right? They look a bit the same, right? So we would say so you could have ij, or you could have row and then column, right? So for j in range, and the range is just going to be the length of the grid, and then at I, like so, right? And we check the value in that specific cell, right? So we check if it is a rotten one, and if it is, we put it in our DQ, right? So we say if the current cell I and then j, if ij, if it is equal to 2, this is a rotten one, so we can put it, and for this we just put q dot append, and what you're going to do is just going to be I j, and because we're starting off, right, this is the first pass through, we're just establishing all the rotten oranges before we can start modifying the ones close to them. We just store the number 0, like so, right? So basically that is, we need to run through our queue, and for that we just say while q, like so, q, yeah, spelling it correctly, and then we pop off the element from our queue from the left, right? From the left. We know when we are adding them, we add them to the right, right? But when we are popping them off, we're going to pop them from the left, right? So we could just do a bit of destructuring, and we could say x, y, and time is going to be dec. Oh, I like calling it it's q, right? We assigned it to q, right? So q, and what we want to do is we want to pop left, like so, right? So we pop left. After we pop left, we assign time to the result. We assign time to the result, and then we need to check that we move in our directions. But before we move in our directions, and we check that the value in the cell to be considered is 1 before you can convert it to 2. And also that our directions are valid, right? Imagine you're at position 0, 0 and you're starting, and you try to move -1 to the left, right? You can't do that because that is out of bounds. So we first make sure that we're moving in directions that are within bounds, and also that the grid in question has, the cell in question has a 1, right? So we could say if 0, and 0 is less than or equal to x plus our direction dx, and it's also less than the length of the grid. We have to make sure it's in bounds, remember? And 0 is less than or equal to y plus the direction we're trying to move on, right? dy, right? And this is less than the length of the first element of the grid, right? Length is grid, and this is going to be x, right? The first element of the grid. And what we have here is a y, is a 1, right? So we say grid is going to be x plus the direction we're moving in, dx, and y plus the direction we're moving in, y, and this is going to be equal to 1, like so. If this is the case, right, we need to put it in our q, but we put it on the right side, right? And then we convert it into 2, right? So we say q, and we append. And what do we want to append? We want to append the x, the current x plus dx, that's where we've moved in, and the y coordinate is going to be y plus dy, because that's where we moved in, and the time is going to be, because one cycle has passed, this is the first cycle, this is the second cycle, or the minute, I guess they're using minute, right? So increase time by 1, like so. And then finally what we do is we convert it into 2, right? So we're just going to that cell into 2 because it has been made rotten, right? So we say x plus dx, and it's going to be y plus dy, like so, and this is going to be set to 2, like so. So that. The next thing we need to do is now we need to go through our grid and check that we ensure that we do not have any 1 left, right? Like any of them is a 1, right? So for that, what we need to do is we just need to go through our entire grid, and we don't need to rewrite that code because we already have something like that. So we need to check if this is 1, and if this is 1, we just need to come here and we need to return, and what we want to return in this case is going to be, they want a -1, right? So after all this, what we're supposed to do is just return the results of the number of what are they called, number of minutes, right? So basically that. So what we need to do is we need to make a couple of corrections. First, we need to make sure that when we are appending, we wrap the various variables that we'll be passing into our queue we wrap them, right? So we do that here, and we also come and do the same where we are appending also. Here where we're increasing the time by 1, and where we are checking whether the value is 1, right? So where we move our x and our y, and we also increase our time and we append it because it's going to be converted, right? So yeah, so basically that at that point. And another thing we need to do, I forgot to write in the for loops, and I copied the for loop, so you should say for in range, right? We do that here and we do that here. And the next thing I forgot to do is here we have to get the direction, the dx and the di from the directions, right? So we should write this for dx dy in directions, right? And then we simply afterward we run our code, and if we run our code, it's accepted, and if we submit it, it is similarly going to be accepted. The time complexity is going to be O of m plus n. The reason for this is because we actually go through every cell in our we go through every cell in our array, right, and check whether or not it is it's a 1 and convert it into a 2. And yeah, basically that. It's going to be O of m by n time and O of m by n, not add, m by n space and time, right? So pretty straightforward in that case. Thank you for watching, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.